right. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to talk about a little medical condition everybody's experienced, maybe not themselves or even a family member, but certainly watching TV, something out there. What I do if my pet has a seizure. Seizures are extremely common in dogs, a little less common in cats, but they absolutely happen. The vast majority of seizures are epilepsy, which is an electrical issue, which we really don't maybe 100% understand. Usually is not associated with some type of major life-threatening condition, but they're super scary. I mean, most dogs will have full body contractions, foam at the mouth. They just look terrible. And it's when they happen the first time, it always freaks everybody out. So what to do if your pet has a seizure. So most seizures are going to last 30 seconds, 5 minutes. When they're having a seizure, most dogs are not really consciously aware. Most dogs will have what are called clonic-tonic seizures, which is where their mouth will jerk open. So definitely keep your hands away from their mouth because they can definitely bite you. They don't mean to. It's just a reaction. So, most time I tell people, make sure they're not going to fall down the steps. If they're close to steps, keep them away. If they're in a place where they're banging themselves, throw some towels down so if they don't hurt themselves and end up with an orthopedic issue on top of a seizure issue. So usually when they're having the seizure, I usually tell people just keep them comfortable as they go through the seizure because they're usually going to be better within a few minutes. Most dogs will have we call it a post-ictal phase, so they'll have the seizure and then they'll kind of go through, I call it the reboot phase. So they'll look, a lot of times if they've had a full-blown seizure, they'll look drunk, they'll kind of walk into the walls, they'll start starry-eyed, or sometimes call it stargazing. They just look off, and it's basically the system turning back on. So again, also keep them safe from, they don't want to, if they're near the steps, keep them away from the steps, those sort of things. Of course, if it's the first time they've had a seizure, see your veterinarian. There's a lot of different causes of seizures. Most of the time veterinarians will run a few tests to make sure there's not something underlying: kidney, liver, infectious diseases, hormonal changes with electrolytes like sodium, potassium, calcium that can all cause seizures. Some less common heart-related issues. Cats, we'll see a little more things like strokes and cardiac events, hormonal conditions. So, usually we'll rule out those things out, and if everything's normal, we'll generally call it epilepsy, especially if they're middle-aged, especially dogs. That's where we see it the most. Most seizures are going to happen between the ages of 1 and 10 years of age. Large breeds, labs are by far the most common breed that we see that in. Most dogs, at that point it becomes a situation where how often does a seizure develop? If it's a seizure that happens, more than once a month on average, or if it's a very long seizure, or certainly if they start to cluster where they have like more than one seizure a day, we will put those dogs generally on medication, usually lifelong. Most of the time we can control seizures long-term from happening again. So, but of course, if you have a dog has a seizure, see your veterinarian. So I hope this is helpful to you all a little bit. Hope your dog never has to have a seizure, but if they do, take care, be comfortable. Dogs don't die from seizures. At least I've never seen a dog die from a seizure. That's not to say it hasn't happened out there in the world, but that would be extremely rare. Most dogs are going to be just fine, bounce back, get them to the vet. Thanks. Bye.